Welcome to Wisconsin in Focus. I'm JD Davidson. The Milwaukee Public Schools got its new tax revenue, but that doesn't mean cuts won't be made. What those cuts are and how they will impact students, though, remain to be seen. And a decision could come as early as May 30th. Joining us today is Ben Yount, Wisconsin contributor for the Center Square. Ben, why are things up in the air, and what is the system saying about cuts even after voters approved more than $250 million in new tax revenue for the schools?
You got to remember that this tax increase, this school referenda, was sold as a way to avoid cuts. There weren't a lot of details as to where this money would go, how it would be spent. The sales pitch from Milwaukee's superintendent was, well, without this, we're going to have to cut music and art, and we may have to cut some after-school activities. We don't know, but we're going to have to cut if we don't get this. And Milwaukee voters narrowly approved this $250 million tax increase, and it's going to add billions of dollars by the time it's done. Rather quietly, on a Friday, MPS dropped its proposed budget for the next school year, and it includes 288 position cuts. Now, position cuts is a very specific term because not everybody's going to lose their job. This is not 300 people. Here's a pink slip. Sorry, you got to get out the door. Some of these positions are currently vacant. Some of these positions have been empty for a while. And while some of these people may lose this job, they may have the opportunity to apply for that job because, look, you're getting almost 30 people who work as lunch ladies, some school nurses, some secretaries, some social workers. They may have the opportunity to apply for simply a different job. But there's also included about 140 something teaching positions that are just going to be eliminated. So even with a $250 million tax increase, even with, a flood of new money, MPS is still going to make its cuts. And the cuts are interesting in the way that they are balanced because they do cut more teachers than they do people at the administrative office.
Well, that's not shocking. But what I did find interesting in the story that you wrote is even with all of the cuts, proposed cuts, possible cuts, Milwaukee is going to be spending more per student than nearly every other major school district in the country.
Yeah, this is the debate that you could find in any state over public education, right? The teachers' unions, mostly Democratic lawmakers, will say there's not enough money. We need more 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 money. Well, Milwaukee Public Schools are going to get more money. Quentin Claiborne, who does a great job over at the Institute for Reforming Government tracking educational spending, said that the proposal for the next school year, 24-25 school year, $22,279 per student. And that would put MPS as the 17th highest spending school district of the 200 biggest districts in the country. This is not, in Wisconsin, they're spending nationally. MPS is a top 20 spender. And at the same time, Milwaukee Public Schools have the worst racial learning gap in the entire nation, which means that often poor black kids in Milwaukee learn less than poor black kids in Baltimore or New Orleans or Miami, or go ahead and pick your city. So you're seeing from this tax increase, this referendum question, you're seeing more money spent per kid, more money spent on teachers, more administrators keeping their jobs, and yet you're seeing flat, if not stagnant, test scores. You're seeing the worst graduation rate in the state of Wisconsin and the worst racial learning gap in the entire nation. And government reformers, education reformers, an awful lot of people in Milwaukee say, why are we paying so much and getting what we're getting?
So voters passed the tax increase, but is there a sense that the administration, the superintendent is under the gun, that people are watching, that, I feel like because voters passed the tax increase, that's the only way that taxpayers have to hold systems accountable. And since it passed, I'm wondering if there is a sense in the community that it's time to maybe now we pay attention and we hold people accountable.
There was a really interesting graphic that came out right after the April vote on this tax increase. And I believe it was the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. That's where I saw it on Twitter first. And they tracked who voted yes on this Milwaukee schools tax increase. And when you broke it down ward by ward, there was much more support for this tax increase in the liberal white wards than in the poorer black wards. And the map broke it down even a little further. And it said that generally upper middle class white liberals who don't have kids in Milwaukee Public Schools supported this tax increase, while lower income black families who have children in Milwaukee Public Schools opposed this tax increase. Now, some of that is obviously economic. You know, if you're making $500,000 a year as a lawyer or a dentist and you live on Milwaukee's North Shore, sure, you can afford that extra $600, extra $1,000, extra $1,200 in property taxes. If you're barely getting by, even an $800 property tax increase is going to really hurt. But the analysis, and this is where Will Flanders came in, and said, look, you also have the sense that parents who are involved with Milwaukee Public Schools, who get a day-to-day snapshot of what the schools are, what they're not, what kids aren't getting, those families said, no, don't continue to send these people money. Whereas you have folks who support public schools in theory. Those were the people who carried this tax increase. And so is the community paying attention? Yeah. Is the superintendent in the hot seat? No. Do I expect any real change out of this? Probably not. Again, this is part of a broader narrative in Wisconsin where Democrats are still so mad about what Scott Walker did in 2011 that they're spiting their nose to save their face. And, they just want to, we got to get Act 10. And they've ignored years and years and years of savings from Act 10 and years and years of underperformance from MPS. And so we're going to continue down that same path, just this time now with $252 million a year in new money heading towards Milwaukee schools.
It'll be interesting to see over the next month of budget hearings. Ben, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
He ran for state office and was beaten. Started a business and failed. Ran for Congress and lost. But thankfully, Abraham Lincoln didn't give up. Persistence. Pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.